Hello everyone, thank you for joining. In this video we're going to be continuing on our Alta platform and some of the progress I've made on the building and just getting the sensors going on the wellhead and all that good stuff. So let's begin. So here we are actually on the roof of the building. It's partially under construction here, partially complete. If we go here to the front, take a look at that. So I've added some kind of artistic or architectural styling to the building with this massive kind of overhanging area and the columns that are kind of curved up. The helicopter pad, I did confirm that it can fit the Martel 25 VTOL, so this is good. This will be for the main transport helicopter VTOL and kind of rescue operations and stuff. And there was a comment suggesting a second helicopter, which I may put on the roof of this building, more for the inspection of the tower and the certain things. It'll be a small one, but this will be the main big one. Now if you go through these doors, there's kind of a lobby area. This is intended to create an airlock so water doesn't come in case there's a flood, because obviously if we just have a pivot, that will make this area in essence open, but I want it to be closed. So for the OMA Diving Academy, that whole main lobby area is fully open. So if there's a hurricane, the water will fully enter, like it'll just submerge it. Whereas here we have these. So this is kind of this little lobby area that I'm talking about. There's a fountain, lobby desk, got stairs going up 3 floors. This will be the security office with armory. And this is another way to get to the parking lot for your little golf carts. There, in essence, will be a security golf cart. And then as you go up these stairs, or the elevator system, which I haven't yet installed, I believe the elevator will go somewhere here or here. And this will all continue. There'll be the dining accommodations, the swimming pool, and OMA, like research lab and stuff, but that's ongoing and that's just visual. It doesn't really add much working items for us. But over here, so this is the center line of the oil rig or oil platform. So in theory, if I do make a symmetrical one of these full things with the building, it'll be on the left side here. It'll just be mirrored on this axis. So I'm still debating whether we want to do that or not. Now if we head into our building, as we can see, last thing we left off was this, and we can lower it and raise it on its little tracks there, but we still have to make these displays because right now we have the drill and well depth, but of course they're not even attached to the, like, this isn't even going on yet, so we need this to tell us that information until we reach the area where this will start being used. And probably just how we have a key here for this system, I'm probably going to have a key for this system as well, just so you don't have to run the displays all the time. And yeah, let's get started. So here we are in our workbench. Now the first thing worth mentioning also is if I do follow this line, I may either have 2 full rod walls, or I may move the rod wall over a little bit and kind of attach it, or find a way to attach it so it's just one wall moving on these pivots. Obviously we know that these winches down here max out at I think 150 now. So with 150 we really don't need more rods, drilling rods, than, well, sorry, so we have 150 to get to the ground, to the sea floor, plus an estimated, I believe I read somewhere that it's pretty close to the surface when you do, maybe 10 or 20 meters. So in essence we'd need, say, a maximum of 20 rods per side. Now we have 10, I believe. 11, we have 11, so I'd say 20 would get the job done, but we'll find out if that works or not. So like I said here, we should probably add a key to enable these systems, because this whole table is kind of the actual drilling station, whereas this is our wellhead positioning station, and this one is rod positioning, and this one is just the clamps. So this doesn't really need a key, but this does. Drilling station, and it's going to operate our 2 displays, and in theory, like light up the dials or whatever, the backlight of these things. So now that sort of no longer is activated by us entering the room, which honestly works for me. Let's get rid of this thing. So now that we have that on its own circuit other than electrical, so electrical we do have to place, how do we do this one? I believe we just put it on its actual facility electric, so we'll do the same thing here. And then actually this key, because we know that the emergency system will disable that, so that key doesn't need to be disabled anyway. And then of course these displays will read the data coming from there and there, and the way we have it set up now is that this is getting a number from the communicator on that wellhead. Now that's not accurate. We're not doing that anymore, because now we have this microcontroller actually feeding us the drill depth and the well depth. So with that in mind, see, we have here drill depth attaching there, so we could attach the drill depth to this, and then this other one obviously will be the well depth, so we could just attach this directly to the well depth there, and that will be fed now from the direct cable connection instead of from the radio, which now this one kind of becomes redundant or unnecessary. It's no longer even being used, because now what we have, this little radio antenna not receiving anything, we have these guys not receiving anything, so we could go ahead and delete it, free up some space, and maybe reduce some of the lag that we may be getting afterwards. So whatever, that's just some housekeeping. Okay, so this obviously talks and communicates to the well and drill depth. So I kind of want to spawn this and see if this wellhead itself, if the drill depth is the depth of the physical drill. No, I guess it's not. It's the well depth. So it should read 0 for now. And what we need to then do is these displays here will use very much the same system. In fact, we could even recycle our microcontrollers here, which will be this, and then we just change what they say. And I guess we'll just put everything up here, and then afterwards I'll distribute it in a nicer spot. Because there's two numbers we need for this. One is our actual seafloor depth. So let's call this one seafloor. And we'll see if it fits. Well depth. Seafloor. We're just going to abbreviate it. Seafloor depth. And then the other one will be the wellhead depth as it's making its way down. So well depth is kind of, we'll see. I need to check that out, if what'll happen. But in essence, the well depth of as we're dropping it versus the seafloor depth as we know where it is. So we'll just leave that one to say well depth for now, and we'll adjust it. Obviously, it'll be confusing if both displays here and here read well depth and they're different numbers. So we'll have to find a way to sort of fix that. Now on this thing, I do want to add a couple things. So I want to put spotlights on at least 2 of these, if not more. Ideally not to reduce or to create too much lag, like we don't need 5 or whatever, but that may be worthwhile. It'll illuminate the ground. And then possibly a spotlight one a little higher like this. That tells us and illuminates this, but that may be redundant, then it may just cause too much glare on this piece. So it's possible we don't need that and could probably get away with just using a regular light. Like we don't even need a spotlight, maybe just even a regular light that can tell us how we're doing. Now, is this a regular cube? Yeah, it is. So let's replace that with the light. And do we have one on the other side? We do not. So we'll stick with the one light for now and see if we want to add things. But what I want to do with that light is it is going to shine green when we've connected. So this light switch turns on when this is anchored. So if we're down in an ROV or a submarine, we can right away easily tell if the thing is connected or not, regardless of our little display here. Like this indicator on this table tells us if it's anchored, but say this doesn't work or whatever, or I mean, you won't even have access. Technically, if you're down in the submarine, you won't see that up there. So now I want you to be able to tell that, yeah, it's anchored. We're good. So that's there. That is independent of every system. It just turns on like that. Now these spotlights will have to make a microcontroller to attach to one of these cables. Now we're already using this cable and this winch for the to drop the, or to read the wellhead information. So we'll need another one of these, presumably, maybe even identical, because we're just reading the well depth and drill depth, and this is an indicator. So we could probably just recycle this exact microcontroller and see how to find a way to use it. But all that I'm thinking here is, well, actually, sorry, this one will give us one of the information, which will be our depth or altitude. So we'll have the altitude meter, and I want to put it on the very bottom of this because it will actually use information. Let's put it here. So it's sending us information of where the bottom of that wellhead is, and that's kind of important. So I mean, sure, we'll just use the wellhead or well depth data point and then plug this in here and this in here. Sure. So that's going to feed off that information. Yet our other one, which will tell us the depth of the water from our platform, presumably, because we want it to align with when this thing reads the same as that depth, then we're good. Like, meaning that they'll align. Well, sorry, you'll get closer. This depth will read, like this one here will start reading like -100, for example, if we're 100 meters down. Whereas if I put a laser or distance sensor, this one goes 500 meters, which is more than enough. If I put it here, technically it will it's not at the, call it the sea floor or sea level. It's a little higher than sea level. So the best place to put this, assuming this is our sea floor, or sorry, assuming this is our sea level, this is where you'd put this guy. And then it's going to read exactly how deep the water is, or the sea floor is, from that one point. One issue that I may see coming up from this is when you pass over with this guy, your laser or your distance meter might start looking at this member as the depth instead of the actual sea floor, and it might tell us like, oh man, you're 20 meters or 10 meters, because it's going to just be bouncing off this. So theoretically this is the depth we want it, but this isn't the location we want it. We may be better off putting it like on this thing and not even worrying about with the location of this. So with that in mind, I will copy this one to another location, let's say right here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm kind of worried about making it's glitched out a couple times when I was making the OMA diving academy, and it started to register that like I put a block, say down here, even though technically the line says we can, but then it was said, oh, you can't spawn this, it's too big for the work area. And like I had to go back using a previous version, so I ended up losing a little bit of work, but that's fine. My worry is if I didn't have a backup, I'd have a creation I could no longer spawn. And maybe, sure, I could probably get away with using like some of the modding tools or whatever to get a better sense of, to regain my structure, but that was kind of what I was trying to avoid. So anyway, that's a little odd, but it might work. Technically that does go there, so I'm better off piggybacking it off the back of this. Oop, never mind. There's this thing it'll hit, so I cannot use the bottom of the stairs. Okay, that's fine. So this one here is our distance sensor, and we'll attach it to the station that tells us the depth. So wellhead positioning system is right there, and then this data node will attach itself to one of these. I recall the top one, I believe, was the seafloor depth. So that's seafloor, and then this one here is our wellhead depth, which we now have to use this communicator to communicate with the cable. So we said we're going to just use well depth, and this is to activate the clamp, whatever, but what we do need is this thing has to plug itself into whatever clamp system or whatever winch we're using. So in this case, this one. So now I just have to attach this winch to this connection. There we go. Okay, so now it should all be ready to go. Let's give it a shot. Make sure we're giving power to the right things. And I guess spotlights could also be controlled with this connection. So may as well just get that in and test everything all at once. So this will be our activate clamp, but for us it's no longer activate clamp. I may rename it, but I mean, as long as I understand. And then this is the activate clamp, so really it'll just be a button that I put on the counter here. Say right here. And call it the wellhead spotlights. Now make sure to give it power. Technically this could be on its own power because there's no need to limit ourselves, even though these ones are not on that. So if we shut off the emergency, that's also going to turn itself off, it seems, which may not be ideal. But anyways, I do want it to stop moving if there's an emergency. And we've attached this, we will attach this to the activate clamp button. So now everything should be in play as long as we have battery or electric power to this, which we do. So let's take a look. We're just sprinting to the building. All right, turn this on. Amazing. Let's see what happens. So yeah, there we go. So these are actually 0, whereas this is now telling us. So our seafloor is at a depth of 85 meters, and our well is chilling at 5 meters. So if we start to lower, and also let's see if the spotlights work. I see that they've lit up, so they do work. Okay, let's lower this and see what happens. So technically now it starts to go negative, which is fine. So in theory, this 15, negative 15 or negative 16, whatever it's growing, should reach 85, and at that point it'll be low enough to attach. That's kind of the theory behind it. Let's see if it works that way, because I want it to at least match up more or less. Like, it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned, but I want to know and attach, and like kind of, I don't want it to climb to the ground now. I want it to go until it's a little closer to that 85. All right. Oh. All right, we're quite close. All right. I mean, I could live with that. And also what I could do is manually adjust. So I'm guessing that difference of 2 meters is either where that sensor is, like the depth sensor, versus where the game finds the actual neutral sea level, like the sea level itself. And we have our lights, obviously. Not quite sure why they're not turning on now. Are they working? Oh, they are working. See, I see. So see, that's actually a disadvantage of what I just did, because now these lights are just pinpricks, but the green one is on, but obviously it won't illuminate anything. So we're better off putting the lights on the wellhead itself. But this test passed. I mean, we did. Oh, and also that green lights up that. So that may not be the best position. It kind of messes with our camera view just a little bit. Okay, 2 things to update. So yeah, this one is kind of too close to our camera, so probably better to put it somewhere else. Now these controllers that are just hanging on the side here, there may be a nicer place to put them, or even just 1 block lower. I'm kind of trying to make it look at least a little bit symmetrical, but while leaving the very clear distinction that this winch is attached to this microcontroller. So if we add another one, but what we can do now is this green light actually probably can just go right on top, to be honest, as long as it doesn't clash with anything. Like, it could be probably there. Add a little bit of a segue for this, and we'll see that hopefully this doesn't hurt our ability to add a rod. Now this may still create a bit of a green glow for our camera, so that is something that maybe there's just no avoiding. I guess move it to the other side. Oops. There we go. We'll move it to the far side up there. So here, it should be as far from our camera as possible, and it'll be easier to see because it's on the top, so when we're coming down the submersible, we'll see that it's fully attached properly. Okay, and next thing, we set our spotlights themselves. While decent as it's on its way down, it kind of gets a little less appealing once it's at a level where it's touching the seafloor, and I'd probably want it to illuminate a bit of the surrounding area, so if we are using a submarine to get down there, we can more or less and this is actually where we could use that. Perfect. Okay, I have an idea. We could use the new controllers. So let's say we put this here and there, so these 2 now. Or, even better, would be to put a symmetrical arm on the other side. Probably doesn't need a camera. We probably could get away with just using the just deleting that block, but making it so it's using just to mount the spotlight on it. So like that. And then we don't need this spotlight here. I do want to create a little bit of a distance, so I think that's kind of what it's going to give us. And if we go to our the new pivot aim, we can attach this microcontroller somewhere unobtrusive. And honestly, I may rework all of these microcontrollers to give us more of a nicer look of Wellhead, like maybe put some type of, anyway, like we'll see how that works in the future. But for now, our Y aim is what we're interested in, and we want to put it so it's aimed upwards a little bit. So in this case, let's give it a +5, and that should kind of shine the lights away from this thing. Obviously it still may, I mean, it still will hit this, that's certain, but we'll see if it causes a big problem or not. And now lastly, let's plug in our new lights, and then these ones down here, either we leave them and they become part of the circuit, but I think once we've gone down to the bottom, they'll be redundant. and not quite necessary, so probably just scrap them altogether. Alright. Now I do want these lights to be a little bit of like xenon, so I'll give them a blue tint. Okay, perfect. So that should be better. And then we had in here, so the wellhead depth, which this monitor reads, is not the same as this one, obviously. So what I want it to read then is, so well depth, not well depth, well head distance. Because technically that's the distance we've lowered it from our base, or from our oil platform. And it also, the numbers start to go negative. So, either I'm going to make it absolute and it'll just read a positive number altogether, or I could inverse it, and when it's above the water, it'll read a negative number. People may get a little confused with that because negative implies underwater, so I can leave it. I guess I'll just leave it. And what I could do then, in the case of the distance sensor, is invert that. And we just put that there and put that there and just give us a negative X. So now it's inverted. The seafloor depth is going to read like negative whatever is our seafloor, which is fine. It's going to line up with our thing. And to be honest, we had a difference of 2 meters, it seemed, from when we did our test. So I could account for that right here and put the add 2. So now we're going to have negative X, which is going to be our, what we were reading 85. But now we've converted the 85 to negative 85 plus 2, so it should be 83. I think it was like 1.5 or something. It wasn't quite 2, if I recall. Let's see. So I'm just testing out the spotlights now. Turn on. I mean, it's obviously bouncing on the, or reflecting off of the steel structure, but at least it's also more illuminating for anyone going down there and taking a look at what's going on, so that should be fine. However, this number, the 1.5, was too much, so like too little, so I actually do need to put a full 2 difference, and that's kind of the next step. And after that, let's see what we do. So the thing I want to do is give this a trial run. I want to see if we can actually attach the wellhead and or rod and all that stuff. Let's do a full trial run on this. So we're going to start with our taking the rod. We're going to go over here and lift this pump jack swivel up so we can actually get in there. And once that's high enough, we can stop that. Go back here, position this over top of the wellhead. May have to go a little higher on this. Okay, cool. Then let's start going down. I'd like a camera. Okay, so now doing this test, we see this, but I'd love a camera that tells us exactly where we are with respect to this. So I'd probably put a camera here like that, looking down at this thing, but for now we'll just use what we have. So what we do need to do, well, sorry, is this gets lowered, so move this clamp down. Okay, disconnect this clamp. We'll activate this clamp, but did I lose it? Oh, I may have dropped it too far down. which is what I just disconnected this clamp without activating this. But let's see if I could clamp it to the swivel at least. Anyway, that may be a bit of a... Oh, there it is. Oh, see, it's not even attached to it. Oh, shoot. I just pushed it down. Okay, well, let's bring this up as far as we can. And that may have shot that up, hopefully. Oh, nice. Send this back. Good, okay, so that actually worked. And then this can be positioned. There, okay. This is lowered. And this is lowered. Okay. But is it attached to that wellhead? But let's first take another rod from the wall. It's a bit of fine tuning you may have to do to get it like perfectly aligned. There we go. Alright. Pull the rod wall back. And then move this a little up so we could line up the bottom of those and put it in the position there. And it's not going to hit that, hopefully. Good. It clears that, and now we just lower this. So move clamped rod down. Okay. Move this up. Okay, move this one down more. And join. Perfect. Okay, disconnect this and send this one back to the rod wall. Now these two are attached, and presumably it's plugged into... Oh, I removed the hole. Whoops. Presumably this is also attached in here, which it looks like it is. We'll just use the no clip to get ourselves on top of this, and then, well, there we go. So is anchored false, anchor false, but this doesn't give us a number whether it's clamped into this or not. It should be, realistically looking at this, but that may be what someone was telling me, that there was kind of a, you can't quite clamp it earlier. But what I would do is send the whole system down together, and that's kind of what my plan is. You attach this like that, and then in theory what you do is you lower the wellhead while lowering the rod down. Can you do it all in one go? Because like technically you do this, and then what, you have to drop this separately. So and see, this is where the monitor would help us, but technically this now could be very well on top. See, is it inside? Don't quite know. So let's get a system that tells us whether or not we can see that stuff. So I just adjusted where this light went and added kind of like a little bit of a stand. I guess this doesn't have to be out of this, it could just be like a pipe like that. Regardless, now we can look down and see the position of this with respect to that. And another thing that I might add is here. I know we have this green light for whether it's connected or not, but I think a light to just give us general illumination would not be bad either. That may be too strong. That may be fine. So then we'll see exactly what we're up against down there. Obviously we need to add electrical power to all this stuff from here. Now I could find a winch that I'm not using the camera system on, which is this one here. Technically its camera is not in use, and then this display is data, video data send. I can, or this one I can attach to either another display or have this one I already have sort of toggle between the two, which is what I'm going to do right now. So let's add another button. And then we'll add our feed switch, which is something I created to give you a switch of video feeds. And we'll plug that into this display here. And then we just have to plug that. So this one will be our camera 1, which goes to there. And this one is our camera 2, which gets fed from this winch. And all this button does is switch the feed. In that case, we'll call this camera feed switch, or wellhead camera feed switch. So straightforward button, nothing too crazy on that. And all it does is change the camera feeds. Now, as for the light, I guess the best thing, or the thing that I have in mind, is that the light I have here will just be illuminated when you turn on your spotlights, because frankly, that's makes sense. Like, you illuminate the top of this and you illuminate the spotlights, so that would work in my opinion. And other than that, like, there's no connection down here that lets us see whether or not our rod is clamped in this or not. And something else that I just thought of as well was it would be useful to be able to send the rod and wellhead down at the same time, because right now we have to independently move this switch, which will move down the actual wellhead, plus then move down this switch, which moves down the rod itself. How can we work our way around that? Oh, I think I have an idea. This may be fantastic. Why don't we just put this right on top of this? Like that. Oh man, because then we're clamping ourselves to this and we could move them down simultaneously. Alright. Maybe that was a no-brainer to some of you guys, but that was just a bit of a revelation here. Where is the clamp? Oil rig clamp. We just attach it here, make sure the positive is downward, I guess, and positioned like that. So now we will have a clamp system on our wellhead. Oh, perfect. That could be excellent. And then, oh, fantastic. If this works, I'll be very thrilled. Slider velocity, rod clamped, clamp rod. So in that case, we do need one of these for this. So move clamped rod up, rod clamp joiner active, and tells us whether it's clamped or not. And then in theory, we'll have the rod move at the exact same time as the wellhead. So let's see if this works. In fact, I might like put the button so it controls the other module as well. Like, I may slave this button. When you're pressing down on this one down automatically gets pressed, so they're joined together. But let's see if this all works. Okay, and then obviously I need a system that attaches this to my wellhead, so I may need another one of these, probably on the other side this time, and attach this all to this one, which is then this guy's attached to my receiver unit, which will be here. And that's this winch. Oh, never mind. That winch already had something. This one, and that one. So we'll use the data node, or this winch data node, to control this clamp. Now I just want to confirm that in fact downward is, oh, never mind. So downward is negative, so I have to rotate this just so I keep my system consistent throughout. There we go. Downward is now negative. Oops. There we go. Joined. And now this will pretty much tell us to clamp the rod, which is perfect. Clamp indicator, perfect. And the other thing, or other data point, is literally just the slider velocity. So we have to do a little bit of revising of this controller. And I want to make it match. So just let's go back up for a second. How we have these ones working, like this clamp. And let's take a look. So goes to this module there, which is right here. So I'm going to pluck this out as an example. So in theory, we may want this to sit on our actual wellhead or here, and we control it, and then this gets sent through here and goes to that, which is probably the way I want to do it, to not busy up the actual wellhead. So the way this happens is we have our button on our display, or our on our instrument panel, which is right here. So it's attached to this and attached to this. Then this one is attached to the speed of the thing, and this is whether it's clamped or not. So these ones are straightforward. We just attach whether they're clamped or not. This one here, instead of having a number that's written, we need to write a number like that, and that goes to that anchor. So we could probably just sequence it like that. And instead of having these ones, which is now redundant, we'll just switch this one to be an input, and this will be slider speed. Okay, slider speed. And lastly, we input our slider speed there. We don't need this anymore, or this. And now what channels do we have? We have channel 3 for the clamp indicator active. We have channel 4 here. So this one can just be 1, that's fine. Okay. Update that. So channel 1 is this. But channel 2 is also this. Oh, sorry. Channel 3 is 2. So something has to be arranged. So we're giving it slider speed in this direction. No, never mind. This is accurate. We have our channel 1 and channel 2 there, which is just feeding our wall track, which is fine. And then this one is just reading that number. So that all this does is read that number and transmit it via, now I think I said channel 1, yes, channel 1, down to the wellhead's receiver unit, which is here. And then this receiver unit, we have to change this, instead of write, to read. So now we're reading a number. And like I did here, we could remove this one, and we could take this one to be an input, and this will be slider speed. So now the slider speed is, oh, I don't think I reversed it, output. So now we're giving it a slider speed, which comes from this, which is fine. And we said channel 1. So this should work. No, it shouldn't. This should work. This one isn't doing anything. Like this is doing nothing, but this should work. So if we update that, attach this to our slider speed, these ones are there, which is perfect. Technically that is good. Now one thing I want to do is, what I was saying is, if I yank the wellhead down like this thing, I want this one to be an actual toggle button. So I could just leave it toggled, like send it down and leave it as such. But we'll see if that works or not. Let's see if these things are connected more or less. Yeah, seem to be. Let's give it a test run. Okay, first things first, our lights work, our feed switch works, and we see now here that this is where it should go. I feel like I could move that camera so it's positioned a little out towards that, so we'll deal with that in a second. Now this, oh, I didn't give electric. So not only am I going to add the electric to this, I'm going to move that camera right off the bat so it's in a better position. So we can go down here. And I think the spotlights, like this number, is probably good enough to move this as well. Alright, and that light should be fine. This hopefully works. Let's give it a shot. What's cool is knowing that once this system is up and running, then it's just a bit of organizing of, okay, there we go. And there we go. So we do illuminate that with this, so we're happy on that front. And now let's try the rod wall and start the process. Turn on the clamp, bring the wall back. Okay, we got to send up our pump jack unit. Alright, that's probably high enough. Go back to this one, position this a tad higher so we get above that, and bring it onto the wall. Okay, and now let's see if this works. So this is the moment of truth. Let's turn this camera on here. Let's turn on our rod clamp. And let's see if we can get it clamped into there. So let's see. We'll watch it on the screen. Yes! Okay. Okay, that's actually excellent. Now from here, we could disconnect this one. We're now fully attached only right here. This one we could send back to the rod wall, it's fine. Now this, we can move down. And we did it. So now we're inside that wellhead. And because we're attached, technically we could just lower that like that. Now there's a bit of this bounce back and forth because of our cables. Obviously they have some tension, but in essence that is what we need, because we'd now attach ourselves a second rod to this, and we know it's attached to the wellhead itself via this. So once we then get to 80 meters or whatever, we can start to drill. So I will end this video here. We will return after I've sort of organized some of this pumping stuff, just because I'm worried if we do make our depth of 80 meters right now, we're gonna have a non-functioning system here, which is not ideal because I can't, unlike the land-based oilhead or wellhead, that where the rod stays, in this case it won't stay because it's all attached to this structure. So once we get down to 80 meters, it'll be, I have to redo the whole 80 meter drilling, and I don't want to do that until more of this structure and like these tanks are fixed. So stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're excited to see the base camp building. It's gonna blow this little one out of the water. I mean, the little one on the land based is kind of cute, but this is gonna actually be like a really nice base. So I'm excited for that and excited for all this. So stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching, and happy Stormworksing.